This lesson continues on from the previous one, Vuex state management. If you want to follow along with the examples, you'll need a basic app that has the Vuex plugin installed. We've set up our store in the main.js file. It uses a getter to track the state of a counter and an action that commits an incrementing mutation with a payload. The root app component uses the mapGetters method to spread the getter into a computed property. It also contains an instance of another component called incrementCounter. The incrementCounter component uses the mapActions method to dispatch the increment method on a button click. Because a store holds all the data and functionality of an application, it can become quite big. To keep our code manageable, we should break up our store into multiple smaller files, known as modules. A module is just an object that can contain all the same options as a store. To demonstrate, let's create an object called counterModule and move everything to it from the store. Then, we tell Vuex that we want to include the module in the store by specifying it in the store's modules option. If we run the example in the browser and click on the increment button, everything works as expected. In this case, we're using ES6 syntax in the modules option, where we combine the key and its value if they're the same. But we can set the key to a different value, and this may be a situation where we want to do so. To avoid naming clashes as our store grows, we can put a module into a unique namespace. As an example, consider that we have two modules with a counter property. Because Vuex merges both modules into the store, their names will clash. Vuex won't know which counter state to change when we refer to it. If we put each module into a namespace, we refer to the counter property through that namespace. That means Vuex will know which counter we're referring to. To place a module into a namespace, we set the module's namespace option to true. The namespace will be the key we specified in the modules option of the store. Now, when we refer to things when we're outside the module, we have to use a different syntax that includes the namespace. If we're using the mapping convenience methods, we simply specify the namespace as a string in the first argument of the methods. Typically, a module file structure looks like this. Each module contains all the getters, mutations, and actions it needs to function. To demonstrate, let's separate our counter module. The first step is to get it out of the main.js file. So, in the source directory, we'll create a folder called store, with a file called index.js inside it. We want to cut the createStore import statement, the counterModule object, and the store object, then paste it into our new index file. We'll also need to export the store at the bottom to be able to import and use it in main.js. If we run the app in the browser, everything will still work as expected. The second step is to separate the counter module from the index file. From inside the store directory, we'll create a folder called counter, with another index file inside it. Then, we cut the entire counter module object, paste it into the new file, and export it at the bottom. Once we've exported the counter module, we can import it into the store's index file, and use it in the modules option. We'll also run the example in the browser again, to make sure everything still works as it should. The last step is to break up the getters, actions, and mutations into separate files. All we need to do is create an object in each of them, paste in the respective code, and export the object. Once they're exported, we can import them into the counter's index file and specify them as the objects in their respective options. Our module is now completely broken up, and each file in the chain is much easier to work with. Let's do one final test in the browser to see that everything still works as it should. In the next video, we'll learn how to create mixins that we can use across multiple components. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one.